Everybody, welcome back to the Spurs 9501 podcast. This is Ray in London. I've got Hadi, who's a football data analytics expert, which I'll let him explain what he does. So, Hadi, welcome to the show. Nice to have you on board.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm Hadi. I am currently a doctoral student here at ETH Zürich in Switzerland, working on my PhD from 2022, from January. So it's almost 1 year and a half so far. And before that, I was a football data scientist consultant, freelancer for the Dutch Football Association, working with their performance and technology department. And also before that, I did my 1 year thesis for them with the same people, let's say. And that's usually how it works. Usually in football, you know some people and you know them through some other people, and then it's a closed network. But then when you are there, then maybe you can keep working and continue growing your career.
Excellent. Well, it's really great to have you on board. We wanted to do a special session where our viewers could understand a bit about football analytics, the data science, how data science is applied to football, etc. So just for our viewers, can you let them know in very high level what data science is and how it's applied to football?
Yeah, true. So I think the first attempts goes back to, I think, 1960s, when in the UK, Charles Reeve, the person who was basically attending football matches, he had a pen and paper, just trying to take notes, for example, from where on the pitch a player passes the ball and how the sequence of passes go, and to come up with some statistics on or conclusions on whether there is any relationship between having short number of passes in a sequence and the success rate of them, like scoring a goal or not. But I think that with more access to the data in the maybe last 2 decades, we have more access to the video footage, we have more statistics, or we have more granular data, like what we see on, which is called event data. Basically, all the actions that players take on the ball are recorded by companies, data providers. For example, if there is a pass, where on the pitch, with the exact coordinate, what's the outcome, which player from which team took that action. And this data is collected. It's basically shipped to the media outlets that you can see them maybe on Sky with the statistics that they show, or even to the clubs or to the news agencies. And there is also another source of data, which is called tracking data. Basically, all the players who are on the pitch are tracked, their coordinates from, depending on the camera, whether it's 25 frames per second or it's like 10 frames per second. You have basically all the players and the ball over the course of the match. And there is also another source of data that's partial tracking data, basically relying on the TV footage. You don't have all the players on the TV footage, but only the ones that are visible, and you have their coordinates and tracking them over the course of the match. So when you have access to all these different data sources, the basic idea I think it really also depends on whether you are working for a club or a team, or you are in a media, you have different goals. And let's assume we are working in a club and in a team. The goal is to win the next match. And
that's excellent introduction. Let me just ask a quick question. So you said the data that we get about the players, the short passes, the long passes, that comes from the TV footage. You also see some players, they wear a little vest on top. Is that the tracking devices you mean? So they can track how fast they move? Yeah,
GPS devices. So you have access to the tracking of your own team. So not the whole, you don't have the full picture of the opponent.
Sure.
And the GPS devices, depending on the technology, they also sometimes capture information like the heartbeat and some other information like acceleration. Maybe it's more accurate, but then you don't have the full picture. And also you don't share those data because also it has some elements of health related data with the opponent. So that's the limitation that comes with.
So the main data is coming from the football TV camera. So most of the Premier League and the top matches are televised now. So you have all the data. So do we have people like data aggregators that take this data and then provide it to the football teams?
Yeah, so there are companies like I just named some of them, like Opta, that I think it's the famous one.
StatBomb one as well, StatBomb.
StatsBomb, StatsPerform, Y-Scout. So all these data companies, there are people who work there maybe as their second job or in some other countries that their main responsibility is to watch the football match, tag and collect all those information. It's not 100% manually, but it's still a manual process. They use some computer-assisted tools to help them to facilitate and make their life easier.
Yep.
But it's more about collecting all the information that happens on the ball.
Yep.
And some companies also provide more context, like whether the action was under pressure or not.
Sure.
But that's, I think, the main data source that is available across the leagues. Tracking data is more limited because you need to, if you want to have the full tracking data, you need to go to the stadium, install cameras around the stadium, and then it's not for everyone to get access and be able to do that.
Yeah. So basically about ingesting the data, we have the video cameras, we have the tracking devices. That's how we get the data. In terms of a bit of context, is this only the top Premier League European clubs that do it, or is it just normal for all the Championship and all the clubs to do this now? Which type of clubs are doing this data analysis?
So I think a lot of clubs have access to third-party solutions. So they don't get maybe the raw data, maybe they don't have the resources inside the club for people who be able to work with the data. But the same companies that I mentioned, they also provide like dashboards, like a software solution that you just get a subscription per account. And then people, video analysts or performance analysts in the clubs can just log into the dashboard and see some maybe built-in reports, some plots that are just fixed. And so it's a general for the clients that the company is providing the solution. But if some clubs want to have some customized solutions, depending on their own philosophy or how they maybe define some metrics themselves, and they think that it should be like that, and maybe they don't want to share it with other clubs, so they don't want it to be ending up in a general solution. So then they need to get access to the raw data from the company that is providing it, and then have a data department inside the club with some people to just build in their own in-house customized solution.
Okay.
And there are some clubs in the UK, I know, City Football Group, I think, is one of the famous ones. Liverpool, recently Manchester United announced that they have hirings for data scientists, football data scientists. Chelsea Football Club. So there are clubs that if you just maybe search on LinkedIn, you will see some people with those titles working in those clubs. So I think that's the indication how I also know.
So basically, hopefully in a few years, we'll see you, Hadi, working at one of these top clubs, I hope, in the UK.
Yeah, we will see. Let's see.
So once the data is ingested from the third parties, etc., is this where the data scientist comes in now to manage that data, look at that, process it, analyze it, and give some feedback to the coaching team? Is that how it works?
So I think
where does the data scientist fit into this?
It can be like that. So it can be like that you have some people who are data scientists who get the raw data from the data provider, and then they just come up with some small applications on their own personal laptop and then export some reports. But maybe the proper way to do it is to really have some people like data engineers to really set up the data infrastructure, you have a proper pipeline. When a match is done, the data is, let's say, digested and into the database that you have. And then based on that database, really you build different applications. So I think that's a proper way. So you have really data engineers for that. But a lot of clubs that I know, they maybe have one person who is responsible for data engineer and data scientist talking to the coaches. So it makes maybe difficult for that person really to do different tasks all together. And also the efficiency is,
Yeah, no, I understand. So in terms of, give us some idea of the types of things that a data analyst will look at when he's reviewing the performance of the team. What type of parameters would they look at? Like, is it short passes, long passes, tackles? Give us some idea around that, please.
Yeah. So I think so assuming that you just started as a data scientist in a club or a team, the best, I would say, use case to start with, or the easy hanging fruit, is to go for the player recruitment, because that's where you can demonstrate the financial benefit of the decision you make. If it goes right or wrong, you will see with numbers clearly, and that's easier to, convince maybe the board or people who are upper to see the value. It's easier with numbers. So player recruitment, finding talents through data, I think, combined with the video. But when it goes to the match analysis and you want to support the coaches with some reports, it becomes less easier to really, how to say, put any number that, okay, this is how much I contributed to the team winning the next match, because a lot of factors are involved.
Yeah.
So I would say go with the player recruitment, and that's easier to start.
Is that what most clubs? Is that what most clubs will be using for player recruitment initially? Then is that what most use cases
That's what
are?
they should. That's what they should use data for, to basically find talents before others find them, let's say.
Yeah, excellent. So let me talk specifically about Tottenham Hotspur, because we have a very rich history of buying rubbish players, really. So, for example, Tonge Undebele, Giovanni Lo Celso, Eric Dyer. These players are not very good, yet they come to Tottenham. We pay them big wages, etc. Could a data science type of approach highlighted the fact that these guys will not work well in the Premier League, and so we should stay away with them? Can it give you that level of detail?
So
For example, Tonge Ndombele, we're paying him 200,000 a week, and he costs like 60 million, whatever. If we did some data analytics, some data science for him, could we have identified that he's not suited for the league?
So I think it's important to note that data is going to help us maybe in the first stages. So you have like a large pool of players across the world, and you want to filter them to make a short list.
Yeah.
And then from the short list, you know that the data that we have is going to capture only maybe on the pitch performance.
Yes.
And there are a lot of other things happen, like mental aspects that are not in the data. Maybe they can be reflected in the performance that we see on the pitch, but it's not something that directly the data companies are capturing. So I think the data helps us to make that short list based on some KPIs that we find useful, depending on how our team wants to play. So this is something we define, and then through the data, we can basically make that short list. Let's say we come up with the top 20 players based on the KPI that we have. For example, the KPI can be how much value they contribute per action that they take on the pitch. And it's a famous, or it's a well-known framework like a value VAEP that gives us this number. So you have a number per action that the player takes. And then when you have a KPI, you have this short list like top 20, and you can also have some filters on, okay, you don't go for a player who is like Messi, is maybe his wages are just out of your budget, or so you also have some filters on that financial aspects. And when you have that short list, you go to combine that with the video to watch those players in the video. Maybe you send your scouts exactly to those countries that the players are there, talk with them. And then there are other aspects. I'm not really an expert in how you evaluate players from their mental aspects, or how they can cope with transitioning to a new country, maybe if English is not their native language, or how they cope with that. So I think that's why it's a difficult, really, a task or player recruitment. It's not. If it was just only data, I would say probably third-party solutions would just solve the problem.
I think you're right. It's a holistic approach. So the data analysis is only part of the analysis. You've got to see what type of person they are, their mental health. And the fact that Manchester City have got data analysis, data scientists, you can see that everyone they sign seems to be a success. I don't see many people that they've signed that is a really failure. So there seems to be value in adding this data science element to your recruitment.
Yeah, I don't know behind the scenes how exactly they are working, how much data they are using in their recruitment, because it's not really something public.
Sure.
And because I don't know, so I don't comment on that. So how exactly it works?
Sure. Yeah. So from what I'm gathering from you, Hadi, is mainly it should be used for player recruitment at this stage, and maybe a little bit of in-game management and player performance during the matches.
So I would say it really depends on if you are in a club. Yes, player recruitment, I would say it's the first thing to go. If you are in a federation, player recruitment maybe doesn't make sense, because
it doesn't make sense.
So maybe there you go for maybe player scouting. So you look for maybe players who you can play for your team, but they are maybe in other leagues, or they have born in other countries, but they can legally play for your team. And you want to use data for that. But maybe it becomes less obvious, and more it goes to how you can help the performance analyst and video analyst because I also want to highlight that there are people who their title is video analyst, and what they do in a team, let's say in general, is that they get during the match, they are in the stadium and they are collecting data manually based on the KPIs that is important for the coach. For example, the coach says, tag all the, let's say, moments that we had a high press on the opponent, and also whether it was successful or not. And then, for example, let's say success is within 5 seconds, we won the ball back. And then you have, or you can easily jump into all those moments in the video because you have basically annotated them. And this is like one job the video analysts do. And data here can help maybe to automate this part, because when you have the tracking data, you have event data, maybe you can save the time of the video analyst and say, okay, I will build the pipeline, I will get the raw data with exact definitions. We can just find and detect all those moments. And then you don't need to, for each new match, you go to the stadium and collect the same data. Maybe what we also provide with the automated is going to be maybe better because the definition is clear, it's less maybe subjective and prone to error, human error while coding that. So helps the video analyst to save time and maybe also be able to build some KPIs on those statistics or data that they were tagging manually.
Sure. Some of our viewers may not be familiar with the term data science. Could you just give a very high level an overview? I know it's difficult, but can you just give a view of what data science is all about? Is it easy or not? If it's not possible, no,
it's easy. So because I also did my master's in data science, but I would say is that if you have a data set, and it can be anything, it can be just in an Excel file, so it can be just as easy as you were working before.
So data set is just a lot of data that you have about, different
things. It can be in a table, it can be a set of images, or it can be just a video. And if you're analyzing that using any method, it's data science, I would say. Maybe you were doing data science before the term data science was well known on the internet. That's how I define it. Maybe that's my understanding so far. So so it's I don't say it's a new. There are some new methods that have been used in data science, and also because of the new technologies helped us to capture more data in the recent decades. That's why we have access to more data, and maybe the advancements we saw in like deep learning and machine learning and like ChatGPT, all them. So new methods, new data, and also we had more access to the computation power compared to maybe 2-3 decades ago. That's why it's like we came up with the term data science. But that's my simple definition of it. You have a data, you are analyzing it. Is
science. Makes sense. Definitely makes sense. Now, just before we finish off, basically what we've spoken about is data analytics, data science regarding the player side of things. What about in terms of the fans what they feel about the club and what they're doing? Is there a potential that we could use data science to see how the fans are, fan engagement?
So I know that some clubs wanted to look into their social media and try to segment the fans that they have to get a better view of, okay, for example, if I am a club in, let's say, Germany, where are my fan base across the world? And for example, I know a case that the club just did this project and they came up, okay, they have a huge fan base, I think, in Egypt. They were not aware of that. And they didn't expect that they should have fan base there. Why? Because they were not a really top level club in Germany. And they said, okay, it's interesting that we have a fan base there. So maybe we can come up with some content to keep that fan base, maybe with some products specific for them. But just knowing, if we know where are our fans and can segment them based on only maybe a simple thing, to just go through the followers of your official social media account on Twitter or any other Instagram, and try to segment them and see, just basic thing, just demography, where they are on the plan.
Excellent. Have you met any famous people while you're working at the Dutch Football Federation? Did you meet any famous footballers?
So I was working with the performance and technology department, their video analyst, and it was like a hierarchy. So I work with them, and then they also give it to the head of the department, and the head of the department gives it to the head coach. And then that's how the hierarchy works. But it was like, I think 2019. So because you said the famous person, so 2019, I was competing in the Paris Saint-Germain Sports Analytics Challenge. That's also what people will see on my LinkedIn profile. I'm presenting there with the PSG logo in the background. And during that competition, I met Thomas Tuchel in the dressing room. He was head coach back then in Paris Saint-Germain. Yeah. So that's the famous person. Yeah.
Excellent. Listen, Hadi, it's been great talking to you. I think you've given us some great insights into this. We really appreciate that. Do you have any social media handles or any social media that you want people? I'll put them in the description as well, but feel free to,
I think the best way to contact me is via LinkedIn, and I will just give you my LinkedIn account. So you can put it in the description, and also some other links for people who want to start. I wrote some posts in the past months, how to start, how the career looks like in this field if you are thinking about becoming a football data scientist. And I think those posts can be very helpful.
Excellent. So I've really enjoyed chatting to you. I'm sure our viewers are going to enjoy it as well, Hadi. So we hope to have you back, regularly on the show to talk about things and, just tell us how things are going. Is that okay?
Yeah, fine. I think next season, probably with the new coach for Tottenham, things can go better.
That's a good point. Let's finish on that point. What do you think? So basically, Tottenham Hotspur, listen to all this. So no manager, no director of football. The fan base is upset. No, probably European football next year. What does the data science say for Tottenham Hotspur next season?
Yeah, I think you don't need data for that. So I think it's not going well. So,
but do you think it's possibly I know you don't know about the club at all, but this is something that's been going on for a long time, I think. So, I think there's basic mistakes been made. So the club needs to learn about this and move forward, I think.
Yeah.
Simple as that, really. Yeah.
Yeah, true. I don't know about whether they have any like data department at Tottenham.
I don't think they do. Maybe we should recruit you as a data scientist for Tottenham to help us. But I think they've made lots of bad signings and they haven't, and it's just caused a lot of issues. But there you go.
True.
Hadi, thank you. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate that. And anybody, if you got any comments or about Hadi, please leave them in the comment section. We'll put his Twitter handle and everything, his LinkedIn profile into the description, and we'll hopefully be speaking to Hadi again. So Hadi, thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next podcast. Thank you.
Thank you, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.